Hello, Pod Fam, and hello, Rachel. How are you today?
Hi, Laura. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sipping on a gin and tonic tonight because it
Wow,
just it
shaking
just
it
felt
up.
like it just felt like a gin and tonic night.
No, we needed it.
Yeah, it's
We
also
needed
been
it.
like not a difficult time at work right now, but like a little all over the place.
Yeah.
So I just needed a little drink.
Yep. Well, I have one as well. I have a red wine. I don't know what it
Mhm.
is. So it's not homemade wine, but it's one of those wines that you like go to the place and you like package it yourself.
Yeah, they make your own wine. Those are great.
Yeah. So my friend, her family does that. So when I went down for my birthday a few months ago, she was like, "Happy birthday. Do you want like 6 bottles of wine?"
Nice.
And I was like, "Absolutely." So we have, 2 left. So it's a nice glass of red wine, and, we have I don't know if you've ever seen them before, but you know my wine glasses that are literally like a fishbowl?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I asked my partner, because I was busy watching One Tree Hill, if he could pour me a glass of red wine. He filled it up to the top,
Oh my God.
and I'm just like, "Okay, so this is about 3 glasses of wine, and I'm about halfway through, so I'm about 1 and a half in."
Okay, well, you're definitely drinking more than I am tonight because I had
Yeah.
the opposite problem
Yep.
where my boyfriend had some friends over for hockey about a
Mhm.
week or so ago and had a fresh bottle of gin. And of course, anytime someone walked in the door, they had to do a
Mhm.
shot.
Indeed.
And the gin was very popular of all of our selections on the bar.
Great.
And so I had like maybe half a shot left in the bottom of the
No.
bottle, and that was, like, all day because I was looking so forward to having a gin and tonic, and then I grabbed the bottle, and there's, like, this little tiny bit left in the bottom. I'm like, "Are you kidding me, guys?" So
No.
so we need
That's
more
the
gin.
worst,
I know.
especially when you're looking forward to it, but I have a very important question for you.
What's that?
How are you feeling about Red, Taylor's version?
Um,
Which just came out a few days ago, by the way, like,
oh my
by the
god,
time this
okay.
comes out, it'll be out for, like,
Uh,
3 weeks, but
yeah.
came out, like, 4 days ago.
Oh my gosh, I've just kind of had a lot of emotions come up. I
Yep.
feel like I'm 20 and 21 again.
Yep.
And I don't want to give too much away because we are going to be doing a bonus episode that, like, okay, just a heads up, it's probably going to be 3 hours long because we have 30 songs to talk
Yep.
about. And we just love talking about this album.
Mhm.
But for me, like, I think what year did Red actually come out? Was that 2012?
I think it was 2012 because I was still in high school.
Okay, yeah. So I was 20 and
Okay.
I didn't pay too much attention to this album at the time
Mhm.
because I think partly like I didn't have the experience that Taylor is talking about in her
Yeah.
songs, and I was living it.
Mhm.
Where now I'm getting this like it feels like a whole new album to
Same.
me
Yeah.
because there's so many songs that like I didn't really even know that well. But
Mhm.
now looking back as like a more experienced adult, it's like looking back on a memory. So I'm just like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I relate to these songs so hard
Yeah.
because, it's just that, like, early 20s, you're testing the waters, you're dating, you're, trying to get your life going, and you're going through school and all that kinda stuff, so it's been great. I've been
Lots
crying
of
a lot,
feels.
lots of
Yep.
feels. I
Yep.
don't think there's a song I can actually, like, sing all the way through because I keep
Yep.
getting choked up.
Yeah. You mean you're getting choked up at 22?
Oh, probably. Next time I listen to it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But, like,
Sounds good.
Forever Winter, the moment I knew, oh my god, like, my
Mhm.
heart breaks, and, I mean, there's just so many good songs on there, and I don't wanna talk too much about it because, like,
Yeah.
I've got so much I wanna talk about in our bonus episode, so that's, like, my little preview. Rachel, what are you thinking? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling kind of the same. When I think of it, I'm almost glad that, and obviously we'll talk about this more, but I'm glad that she released her vault tracks now
Yes.
because I'll explain more like my full thoughts to this, but I definitely agree where it feels like looking back on a memory, like it feels like you're an adult now reading your
Mhm.
old diary.
Yeah, like the Evermore effect, you know?
Yeah, like it feels, even with the way she sings it, it feels nostalgic in a
Yes,
way where there's still that anger and that sadness, but there's also love.
exactly, where I think in the original version,
Mhm.
it was very much like going through the experience and still trying to sort out the emotions, and I think that's why the album, like, didn't really hit with me
Yeah,
at 20 because, like, half the things that I relate to in this album hadn't happened to me yet. You
exactly.
know, that was still to come.
Yeah. Red Taylor's version aside, because if we talk about it too much longer, then the bonus episode will be now.
Yeah, and
Um,
can't do that tonight. Can't do it.
yes, but we were doing something very special over the weekend, which inspired today's episode. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we were creating our very first vision board for the podcast.
Woo!
Woo! Um, you know
Manifestation.
yes, we love that. So, as our listeners know, like, we launched this podcast in late June of
I
2021.
think it was late June, yeah.
Pretty sure. I don't know. June 25th stands out in my mind, but it was probably
Somewhere
not
in
that
there.
day. Probably wasn't that day, but I'm gonna say it was that day.
Yep.
And so we've been at it for not even 6 months
No.
now. And, you know, we love doing this podcast so much because it's just such a good opportunity for, uh, like Rachel, you and I to hang out.
Mhm.
And is that Benji banging in the background? Is he interrupting me?
He is. I'm so sorry. He loves to protest, and I don't know why, because he can very easily eat out of his little bowl, but he likes to tip it over, to tip the food onto the floor so he can eat it that way.
Oh my goodness, Benji. Well, you need to be
Yeah.
more like my little kitty behind here who is
Oh.
sleeping with her paw over her face because the lights are too bright.
Oh.
Oh,
Cute.
she knows I'm talking about her.
I wish that he was as passive as that tonight. It feels like the more times he's featured in the background of the show, the more he gets into it. So like the first time he was in the background, he was like, "I'm silent." And now he's like, "You're going to know that I'm here."
Yes, he's like, "I
Cuz
see that microphone."
he's like, "I need to, I need to show myself to my fans." Cuz that's obviously why people are here, is to listen to
Just
the
for
bunny bang his bowl in the background.
him. Anyway, so I don't even know where I was. We've been doing the podcast for 5 months, and we love doing it because it's just good opportunity for you and I, Rachel, to hang out, and, you know, we've really started connecting with some of our listeners, and
Mhm.
that's, like, my favorite thing because that's really, like, what we wanted to do when we
Mhm.
started this podcast is we wanted to have a community where we could just, you know, meet other people who kinda share similar views to us,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the direction that we're heading in, and we thought now that, you know, we are trying to be serious with the podcast and it needed a roadmap to
It
take us
did.
through the next year as
Mhm.
we continue to grow it and record episodes and get more guests to come on the show.
Exactly. So, yeah, vision boards. Let's start with kind of how we view them, because I've definitely made a couple in my life. Have you made any other
I
than for the
have.
podcast?
Yes, however, it's been a long time since I've made, like, a physical board. I think it was
Okay.
more back in, like, high school when, like, vision boards and manifestation and, like, The Secret
Yep.
came out, so, like, kind of around, like, maybe probably before 2010, but, like, definitely 2006, 2010 era is when everyone was kinda doing vision boards, and, like, that was the classic, like, you'd print the page off
Yeah.
the internet, or you would, like, clip a magazine of, like, a trip you wanted to go on or, like, an outfit you wanted. So very simple, like, just kinda, like, pasting that up on the wall. But then I think my real, like, first vision board actually became Pinterest.
True.
Right? Like, in the 2010, 2012, when, like, Pinterest was, like,
Yeah.
becoming all the rage, I had, like, a board for everything. like
Love it.
writing, working, house, relationship, wedding. I had it all. And like, yeah, even like working out in health, I had things of like what I wanted to do and like things I wanted to achieve.
Mhm.
So that was probably like my first like real vision board that like I put up there. I looked at it and like would add to it. And it
Yep.
also gave me like actionable items to do just
Mhm.
based on like, links that were there. Um so that's kind of my first experience. But Rachel, what about you?
So I actually didn't make my first one until January of this
Oh,
year.
really?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I've had Pinterest before, but it never really, like,
You
struck
didn't think of it
my
that way.
yeah, like, it didn't really strike my fancy, like, I don't know. And, I felt like I was in a space where I really wanted to organize my thoughts for what I wanted my life to look like as a whole. So, it was a very broad vision board, like, it had, like, the engagement ring that I want one day on it and, like, a picture of I think it was, like, Bali
Mhm.
because I really wanna go there. So, it was really all over the place and, it had some words that were traits that I wanted to exude and also, things that I wanted to bring into my life. So, like, community was on there. And it was a physical board, so I got it from, Dollarama. And
Always a good spot.
yeah, and I made myself a little Microsoft Word document with all the pictures that I wanted to put on it, and I did it all by hand.
Did you use word art for that?
No.
Oh,
No, so
damn.
I pulled all the pictures off of, Google Images.
Nice.
So, it was pretty cool because I think, I made it so broadly that it encapsulated my like, everything that I was looking for in life that when I look at it now, like I wanted to hike more and I wanted to see my like have deeper relationships and I wanted to find my partner. And like all three of those happened after I did that.
Yeah, so did you
So,
treat it as, like, a daily reminder? You'd be, I don't
yes.
know, getting dressed for work, and it just happened to be beside your closet, so you'd spend some time looking at it every day?
Yeah, so I put it right actually in front of my keyboard.
Okay.
So whenever obviously I would see it when I was getting ready in the morning, but especially whenever I sat down to play,
Mhm.
I would like be looking at it while I was doing that because that's like that takes me into almost a meditative state.
Right.
Um, and the one thing that was interesting is I almost have diverted from it a little bit the past couple months because it's like I accomplished half of it and then realized that the other half that I had filled up the board with either wasn't working out or I
Mhm.
didn't want to do it anymore. So it's interesting how it evolves over time, especially when it's a board about your life.
Yes, that's so
And
true.
and I think that that's what I love about them is that it's an ever evolving thing that helps you gather your thoughts about what you truly want.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people, they'll be like, "Hey, this is my vision board for
Mhm.
the year,"
Yeah.
where, a year is a long time, and things do
It
change,
is.
you change. And, you might try something and you go like, "You know what? Not for me."
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's good that people like update their board and
Mhm.
remove those things that no longer serve them or they no longer want, because
Yep.
then that is like almost like a refresh on your mind to then bring in new things that you want. So I
Mhm.
don't think anyone should see that as a failure if something didn't work out.
Yeah. It's just reducing the clutter of your mind, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause then
So,
it's almost like a bit of closure
yeah.
where you're either like, "Oh, okay, you know what? I completed this. Great." Or, "You know what? I don't want to do that anymore. Fine. Let's take it off there. I don't even have to think about it every day. It's just out of my mind."
Yeah, and I'll just be, like, fully candid here, but one of those things that it's almost stopping me from bringing it back and removing it and adjusting it was I filled up that board with a lot of things about law school.
Mhm.
And just with how things worked out and to be totally honest, eventually I started to realize I didn't really want that much, But I do need to I'm at a point now where I'm like, "Okay, I think I need to take it off
Yeah.
and adjust it." And, like, sometimes it's not very easy to do that, but it's just
No, not at all.
I feel like in that sense, it's when I do that, I'll be fully letting go of that goal and
Mhm.
making room for something more. So that's kinda how I like to look at it.
Yeah, that's exactly it, like you just said, make room for something more
Mhm.
and set yourself new goals.
Yeah. Sometimes it's rough, but, we gotta
Yeah,
do it. We gotta
exactly.
do it.
And for me personally, so I'm not so much like I think so I have a lot of like good intentions to sit down and
Mhm.
like create the visual board,
Yep.
but it doesn't always happen for me. So I have like a bit of a different thing that I
Mhm.
do, and, Rachel, you know this, but I'm, like, a big fan of the Blogilates Day Planner by Kathy
Yes.
Ho. I've
Yes.
had, like, probably the last 5 years worth of them,
Mhm.
and I just love how those books are structured because right at the beginning of the year, you're listing out your goals and how you're gonna do them and when you wanna do them by, and it's more just, like, a written way
Yeah.
of writing out your goals and your because that's really all a vision board is. It's just your goals and
Yeah.
things that you would like to happen. So it has like your short-term goal, your long-term goal, what's your reach goal?
Yeah.
And I like doing it that way because then
Mhm.
each month has like a, "Oh, hey, how are you doing on your goals?" Or like, "What's your small goal for February?"
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, you kinda do a recap of like, "Okay, here's what I accomplished. Like, did I reach my goal or did my goal change?" And like, "Okay, now what am I looking forward to for the next year?"
Yeah.
So that's kinda like how I like to do my manifestation and visioning.
Mhm.
Um so and that's kind of what we did on the weekend where ours is not fancy right now, like, it's literally
No.
a
It's
Google Word
literally a
doc.
document.
Yeah, it's just on, like, Google Word or whatever they call it. Um
I'm looking at it right now, and it is called Podcast Manifestation Document with a text smiley face.
yes.
So that's what we're working with.
Yeah, but it was just such a great way because I find a lot of the time, vision boards are very personal,
Yeah.
so this was really fun for us to bring forward what we both see with the podcast and its future
Mhm.
and just really opened up a lot of communication for us to make sure that we're checking in, are we on the same page of what we want to do with this thing,
Yep.
and are there things you want to do that I haven't thought of, and vice versa.
Yeah. And before we move on too, I really wanted to go back to that, planner where I
Mhm.
love how it's the goals at the beginning of the year are broken out into, like, smaller, kind of medium, and then, like, reach goals.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I definitely find that that is something that could help avoid that disappointment at
Yes,
the
because
end
I
of the year if something didn't happen.
yeah, and especially I think with vision boards, I think we get the idea that we put these so like grand visions of
Mhm.
like I'm gonna win the lottery and like drive a Rolls Royce. Like,
Yes.
I mean, good for you if you can accomplish that in 1 year. Like my hat is off to you.
Yep.
Um, but like the more realistic thing is just like, hey, you know what? I bought a new car. It's a Honda. Like I don't
Yep.
know, whatever. But it's more like the stepping stones, right? Or like, you know what? I didn't buy a house this year, but I moved out on my own. Or
Yep.
I'm saving for a down payment. I've saved like $20,000 or something. It's just a little bit more practical,
Yep.
I find, where this the vision board, you might not find $1,000,000 on the street.
Yeah. And one thing of note that I have is for very, very specific goals, be as specific as you want to be. Because, for example, on my vision board that I made earlier this year, I said that I wanted financial freedom, right? Where in my brain, when I was doing that at the time, I was like, okay, well, I want to have this much saved up at the end of the year, and I want this investment account opened and such. And at the end of the year, I haven't opened up that investment account yet, but in a way, I do have that freedom.
Mhm.
So it's just if you are looking for something very specific, I would recommend putting it on it.
Yeah, like, make it tangible for you,
Yes.
and I think milestones are
Yeah.
huge because, I mean, you could have a big goal,
Mhm.
but break it down into, like, 5 different small goals.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that just kinda keeps you on track and keeps you motivated, and then the whole, task doesn't seem that large and
Yeah.
daunting.
I agree. So, shall we discuss our process, I guess, of making our little manifestation document?
Yeah, absolutely, and, like, this is different for everyone, but,
Yeah.
basically how we broke it down is, it's, I don't know, November 17th, so we're, like,
Yeah.
halfway through November right now, and we've got a little bit left of 2021. There's lots that we want to accomplish in that time frame, and then
Mhm.
we're looking forward right now to 2022,
Yep.
and that's kinda where the bulk of our goals are because we know that they're gonna take some time,
Yep.
um, and then, to keep us in line with our reach goals, we're looking at 2023
Yep.
as well. So we kind of broke it down into time,
Yep.
but I feel like there's some other ways that you can also break your goals down into.
Mhm.
Again, going back into the milestones
Yep.
where, maybe completing something in 3 months is not realistic, but reaching a certain, I don't know, like if you're out hiking 5 kilometers and you want to work your way up to 10,
Yep.
you know, kind of hard to put a time frame on that. So
Mhm.
it's just different ways to think about it. So, you know, plan it how you feel like you need to plan it.
Yeah. Also, one very important factor that we've missed here when it comes to starting your vision board for the day, it's very, very important that you put on an episode of One Tree Hill at the same time.
Oh yeah. Because oh my god, we would be like working away like on our goals, and then something would happen on One Tree Hill. There'd be like 5 solid minutes of silence.
I know.
And then the crazy scene would end. We'd be like, okay, back to where we were.
Yep, yep.
It
So I mean,
inspires us.
it does inspire us. So, maybe it doesn't have to be One Tree Hill, but something that inspires you in the background, it does help. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe I don't know if I recommend listening to the Red album.
No, you'll just cry. Then you'll just
Yeah.
be like, "I'll never achieve anything."
I'll never find love again.
And then 22 will come on and you'll be like, "I am the queen of the world."
Right?
You'll really be all over the place. So, yeah, like when we did our document, I guess, we did do it by time, by month, and that's how we broke out those incremental goals. Like we have a bunch of goals for our social media, for our Instagram, and for January 31st, 2022, we want to reach 100 followers. That's our first milestone in that regard. And then, you jump ahead 6 months or 7 months, I don't know, to like end of July, and then we want to reach a new milestone in that realm. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how we built on it, was that it wasn't just dropping it in and being like, I want to have 40,000 followers by the end of 2022, because it's like that just seems like such a big goal. Like it almost feels unreachable. We're having those small incremental, okay, well, by this time, I want to have this amount of growth. And by this time, I want to have this amount of exponential growth. It just helps with those checkpoints to make you feel like you're getting somewhere.
Exactly. So with Instagram in particular, we made those quarterly goals,
Yeah.
and, the numbers that we're using, they really aren't that big,
Yeah.
and that's more like we don't know how
Mm-hmm.
fast it's gonna grow, right? So we didn't wanna put anything daunting like, "We're gonna have 100,000 followers on Instagram." Like,
Yeah.
Rachel and I are both shit at Instagram. I highly doubt that we're gonna have 100,000 followers. You know?
Like literally ever.
Yeah, like, we are literally the worst people ever to have Instagram, but it's like a necessary evil. But
Yeah.
we have a plan for that as well where we can, we hope to alleviate that piece of the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and have someone do it for us. One thing that we've always agreed though is whenever you're talking to us, either through like the DMs or on the comments, that is us.
Yes.
Like whoever we bring on our team to take care of the social media, they are purely for content generation because that's where Rachel and I we're just fucking useless.
We really
Um,
are. It took
yeah.
me, do you know that one Canva post that I made?
Yes.
Do you want to know how long it took me to like just figure out how to do that?
You tell me, and then I'll tell you how long it took me.
4 hours.
Oh God. Hey, you know what? I'm
Just
pretty
to
sure
figure
mine.
out how to write it. And I was just like, I can't do this. I'm too old.
Well, my most recent one took me 2 hours because
Yep.
I couldn't get the color and the font to work.
No.
And I think the only reason mine took less time than yours is because I made all the other shitty posts before. So I had like a little bit of experience. But like we openly admit that we are just god awful at Instagram. Like if you ever saw our personal Instagram page, I mean, both of us have not made a post in over a year
Yeah.
because we're just not like, we are awful at taking pictures, um, terrible at creating like content on Canva. And it's just not our strong suit. Like we would much rather
Yeah.
record a podcast every day
Yeah.
and put it up than make one Instagram post. So that is another goal for us, that we can actually bring someone on our team to take that over. And
Hmm.
then, we hope that this professional will actually have the expertise of saying, okay, your goals of reaching, X number of followers, not very realistic. Like this is what you can
Yeah.
expect. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at with Instagram on the vision board at the moment.
Yeah. And that's also an incremental goal as well, where looking at this document, like at the end of January, we're hoping for somebody who, maybe helps like curate 5 hours worth of content a month. And, whether they volunteer for it or we can pay them a little bit, like we'll do that. But then like end of June, we're hoping to have a paid, like almost full time social media manager by end of June 2022.
Exactly. And
Yes.
so like I think that's probably our biggest goal. Well,
I
not
think so.
the
Yeah.
biggest, but it's definitely a big one for us because we know it's a weak point
Hmm.
that we have, and we're just trying to figure out like how we can do better.
Yeah.
And we just admit that we are not the solution to do better. We've tried.
Yeah. Which I think is a very honest thing to admit when it comes to business, is what your faults are.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a problem a lot of like small business people have, is they feel, and sometimes they have to wear all the hats,
Hmm.
where maybe it's not appropriate. And right from the beginning, we've known that it's not appropriate for us to be the social media managers and do
Yep.
the recordings and do our own editing and deal with guests and sponsorships.
Yep.
Like that stuff is our strong suit.
Yep.
Instagram, definitely not.
No. So that's I think that's probably our biggest operations goal for
Yes,
2022. We have a lot of vision goals, but on the actual operation side of how do we actually function as a team, that's the biggest one.
definitely.
So you guys are getting all the tea on how this all works.
The behind the scenes.
Yes. And then another huge area that I see in these goals is improving our method of communication with our listeners and creating more opportunities for them to connect with us, because you know what? We're not great at Instagram. And I know that there might be some listeners that also are like, they might not even have it.
Yeah,
So,
and I find with Instagram, like it's good for the one-on-one, which we love. We love when people message us with their thoughts on the show and give us new ideas. But really, going back to why we started this podcast, we wanted to create a community where, you're not just talking to us, but you're talking to other like-minded women or people who like the show.
Mhm.
And we're trying to figure out ways that we can facilitate, because
Yeah.
that's kind of like what we want to be for this community, is the facilitators of, let's have discussion, let's
Mhm.
um lean on each other for support and advice. And so that's something we're really working on, that we hope to be launching probably like mid to late
Yeah.
2022, where we can have more like, live sessions and in-depth discussions. And okay, if you were listening to an episode about 2 weeks ago, we
Yep.
kind of dropped a hint that we want to start a book club,
Oh, I
which
do wanna start a
I'm
book
still
club.
so down for a book club. Um, but yeah, just having something where we can share ideas and really connect, because I think we've already made some really awesome friends
Yep.
in like even just the early days of this podcast. We've made some really great friends, and we just want to make more friends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to what the original intention of this podcast was, if you go way back to episode 1, was to build a community of women who are driven to building an inspired life. And that's all we want. And this is kind of why we want to improve the communication side.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do we want to share like our really big dream in like 2023?
Maybe not yet.
Okay, so we're
Let's
keeping it a little secret.
I think we're going to keep that one a secret for a little bit. And then
All right.
once we get a little further down the road, we'll release our next plan that we have, that it's a big one. Like
It is a big
like
one.
it's
It's
a reach
actually
goal.
it is, and it's actually so fascinating looking at this document when I think back to it's only about 2 months from now, that last year. So I think it was like end of January that we first formulated this idea.
Mhm.
I would not have thought, looking at this document, that we would have even written something like it down when we
Yeah,
started this.
like if we can pull these off, I mean, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
Yeah.
really fun. So, you know, I'm calling anyone who's listening now our OG listeners. You're hearing it here
Yeah,
first. We got some big goals.
we do. And we hope that you'll be with us through all of it. So, yeah, it's all exciting stuff. And another big goal, we don't want to like jinx anything, so we're not going to like tell you all of who we want to interview, but we do like we're really driven to bring guests on in 2022.
Yes, yes. And I think staying true to what this podcast is,
Yeah.
um, it will always be this very chatty, obviously,
Yes.
back and forth between Rachel and I. But it's important that we bring on new ideas and experts from fields that we really love to learn about. So we're going to just start incorporating that a little bit more in 2022. We're just working on some interviews right now,
Yep.
and we're excited about that.
We are. And like for anybody listening, this really is it feels like a collaborative episode where we're letting you in on the goals and the dreams that we have, and you are part of those goals. Like, if there's any one or any type of people that you would want us to bring on this show to discuss certain topics or educate in a certain area, just let us know over the Instagram, and we will do our best to find somebody to fulfill that.
Exactly. Like, we do this show for you guys. So if there's someone you want us to talk to and ask all the questions, we can do that.
Yes. We'll be on your behalf. We'll just slide into their DMs and be like, "Hey, we got this show.
Come on, all you need is a cup of tea. That's all we need. And we'll just chat.
Yes.
We'll just have a chat.
If we talk your ear off, I'm sorry." Well, do you have anything left to say on vision boards? I feel like this is definitely not as structured as some of our episodes have been, but this was just a very open chat where we wanted to let you in on some secrets.
Yeah, we really just wanted to hint at some things that are coming up in the next year. There are lots of other things that we are not including, but we want to keep a little bit of a secret.
Yes.
Um, just to make sure, we can have everything just right for you guys. And we are so excited. And if you are listening to this episode, like, thank you so, so much. You have no
Yes.
idea how much you guys mean to us. And yeah, Rachel, do you have anything else to say?
You just made me like a little bit emotional
Oh,
with
okay,
that comment.
it's the Red Album, okay, it's the Red Album. We're all just
I
a little
know.
touchy this week,
We're all just a little bit touchy, but it's so true. You know what? Like when we first recorded our first episode, like I don't even know how long ago. Literally, like we texted each other one day after a long conversation. We're like, "Do you want to buy microphones?" Like we didn't even know if we were going to launch at all. And to even think about the fact that people would actually listen
Oh my god, our first download, I
was
think
a
I think we
day.
actually, like, had champagne.
I know. I know.
Because we
So
never
like
thought in a million years, like, anyone would wanna listen to this show.
yes. So we do really appreciate it because it really is a labor of love for us, and it's become something where it literally was a pipe dream that we had talked about in the past. And we were kind of all over the place where we are like, well, maybe we'll do a blog or maybe we'll do this. And this is just something that it's feels like it's taken off for us, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so, so much, and, yeah, make vision boards, live your dreams.
Yeah. If anyone is still listening, thank you. We appreciate
Sorry, I'm sorry
it.
we ramble so much.
Thank you for being here. Please come interact with us on Instagram. We would love to hear from you. It's the Tea with Laura and Rachel. We welcome comments, direct messages, good feedback, bad feedback. Please be gentle on our hearts, but we
Mhm.
would love to hear from you regardless. So, yeah, that's everything for me. Do you have anything left to say?
No, that is pretty much all I have to say as well. We love it if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts,
Yep.
and we will talk to you next week. So, live like tea.
Live like tea.